Tonight, we get to take a deep dive on a remote viewing session completed by the then CryptoViewing team, now the Future Forecasting Group, where they were tasked to look at the possibility of a global cyber attack. They brought back a mixed set of data, and tonight I'm excited to be joined on the Future Forecast podcast with my good friend and our analyst here at Future Forecasting, Courtney Wheaton, who's going to give us a fantastic deep dive into the data that they brought back. Courtney, how are you?
I am well. How are you tonight, Dennis?
I'm doing well as well. It's good to see you again. It's been a while since we've been able to
It
connect
has.
online. Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, so
It
it's
has been. Well, you've been busy, and then I've been in this new role here, and but I'm glad we got to connect. And I'm hoping we'll be doing more of these as well. I think the plan is to look at some of those big targets that we've looked at, that a lot of you out there, have questions about as we're exploring the timeline, the markers in time, those future events that we're all wondering what's going to happen, what's it going to look like. So Courtney's going to be pulling some analysis together with the magic that she works. So I'm excited to get into this. Courtney,
I
thoughts
am
on
as
this? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
oh yeah,
sorry.
I am as actually as well because if you think about it, there were so many targets that were worked before I joined the team,
Yeah.
and then I was only I typically work mostly the crypto targets. So this is going to be fun for me to actually get to see some of, I guess you could call it the back catalog
Yeah.
of what the viewers have done, and be able to maybe hopefully put in a few more pieces. Because some of this stuff really starts to make a lot more sense when you look at it months after the fact. So I think it's going to be a good fun project. So
I agree. And what I like about this format is we can kind of take those creative leaps here and look at pieces like, oh, what if this is tied into this piece? Because I was looking at you sent me some stuff ahead of time. I was looking at some, I was like, oh, this might relate to this session and this might relate to that session. So we can pull some of that out as we go. And those of you watching or listening as well, let us know your thoughts as we go through this. How does it connect to the big picture and what does it mean? So any thoughts on this project specifically, Courtney, before we get into our discussion?
it was interesting. I watched your original debrief with the viewers,
Mm-hmm.
and um it was it's always fun to, I guess, fun to see their initial take, because so often they're really prone to dismiss their own work. Oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't on target. It's kind of like, if my data doesn't fill in with what we think's going on, then I obviously sort of failed.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really interesting kind of watching. I'm like, I think there's more going on in this than they were picking up on. And so that's what it's really fun for me, is to go, hey, you guys weren't there are some issues, I think, with the tasking
Mm-hmm.
phraseology, and the way that these kind of targets can sometimes be tasked, that I think um, can kind of create a void where the viewers are apt to go out and get some additional stuff. So I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
happened here, and I think it was a lot of fun. So
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, I think, once we review the tasking of kind of our thoughts on how that influenced the type of data that they brought back. But this was a neat target. I remember when this was tasked, I remember talking about this in private circles within the crypto viewing community, about a possibility, just exploring it, like what would happen if there was a global cyber attack, meaning, the whole internet, the whole infrastructure would be shut down. I mean, that sounds like a scary dystopian thing. Full caveat, we're not spreading fear here. I'm just talking about that possibility. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, and you can draw your own conclusions after you listen to this conversation. But a fascinating thing to think about. And I remember doing some research before that, realizing just how vulnerable the grid is, how often we're attacked every single day by foreign adversaries and domestic as well, just trying to take down our grid or mess with it, and how simple it really is.
yeah, and basic infrastructure like petroleum
Mm-hmm.
pipelines. I was doing some research because initially some of their data looked to me like it might relate to like POL storage type facilities,
Right.
things like that. So I was looking into that, and you know, uh, cyber attacks. I think they're number 5 on the list of targets of oil storage and
Yeah.
POL, things like that. So yeah, there's definitely areas and vulnerabilities that I think are more prone to people wanting to either were like ransomware attacks, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a apparently a big market for wanting
I
to
mean,
disrupt
when you
things.
think about it, if you shut down even one industry area, it creates a disruption. It has a ripple effect, which could be advantageous to an adversary for whatever their goal may be. It doesn't even necessarily have to be terrorism. It could be economic, that's created disruption here, and then it's going to have that ripple effect to impact the market over here. And by the time we realize what's going on, they've already done what they needed to do and gotten out. So there's a lot of reasons for it besides just the big scary terrorist stuff. Why someone
No,
might.
absolutely. It can drive it can drive populations in certain
Mm-hmm.
ways. So
Yeah, which I think is the name of the game, right? All right. Well,
yeah,
let's take a look at this analysis, and we'll have a discussion as we go through it.
perfect.
It's like old times now.
I know, yeah. I'm like, woohoo, get my thing ready. We had a few technical mishaps right before we started, so I had to resort to a backup laptop and doing some
Yeah.
stuff. So the magic here. Um,
Ironically, we both had technical mishaps. You had a computer issue, and then we got on, and then my computer froze. So maybe we're being cyber attacked as we're
it's
talking about a cyber attack.
entirely possible. Entirely
I
possible.
agree. I agree. Okay, nice graphic there. I like that.
So yeah, this original target. So and I very much recommend for any of our subscribers who are on our site, you can go in and do the top search bar function and just type in global cyber attack, and you will find the original debrief video that our folks did on this target. So yeah, you can see the target ID there. This is just supplemental, so they've had me kind of go back. This was done originally back in March of last year, so quite a big time span before we get to this stuff. Getting into the tasking. So the viewers were asked to move to an optimal position, time, and location to describe the most probable outcome only. And the question was, will there be a global cyber attack? I kind of have some problems with the structure of that because I think it leaves it a little bit open-ended.
Yeah, there's a lot to be. It's funny. I was thinking about this today, just as a remote viewer. Like, hey, I want to know which choice to make in life. Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Is there a way to task that? And this is kind of similar. Will this happen? You even have to think about the intention of the tasker or where the tasker's mindset was as he was or targeting the targeteer. As he was setting that target up, was he thinking that there was going to be one? And if so, it's possible then that the viewers would bring back data on an actual cyber attack that may never happen.
Right. And what actually constitutes global cyber attack? Does it have to, like, what's the scale of
How do you define it?
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's kind of a nebulous concept. And so
Right.
with that, I think we're doing a much better job these days in the structuring of these type of questions. And this is something like, I'm a tarot card reader. This is a yes, no. And
Right.
any good tarot card reader knows you don't ask yes, no questions because they cause too many problems. So that said, the viewers came back with some really interesting data. So we've got their color coded, so you can always see whose colors are whose. Unfortunately,
Can we just talk about, before we go off the rails here, how would you task this? Do you have any thoughts on what a way to task this would be?
I would I could say, because we do know that there are always attacks. You could probably say something to the effect of which industry might be targeted next for even something as specific as like giving a time frame. In this, the next 6 months or something to give it some buffer. Some boundaries to it, because I think global cyber attack, there's no time limit, there's no metric for what that would actually entail. So yeah, I would say, pick an industry, how will, what's going to happen with this industry, that kind of thing. I think that would be probably a better way to task it.
Like a specific date, time, and location, and looking at a specific industry. And you'd have to know about the industries and how an attack might affect it. And then you can look at just the day-to-day operation of this industry during this particular time frame. and that would help narrow it down for the viewers to hone in on one of those anomalies.
Yeah, because so often, cyber attack, at least with the way it's portrayed, it's, anonymous hackers and, cells in different countries. It seems like, is there a concerted, I was recently rewatching the John Wick series, and I was like, is there really like a concerted criminal enterprise, that's got everything and they're doing all this stuff, or is it more just disparate groups kind of functioning independently? So I think it's kind of hard to tell.
Both are very dangerous things, either one,
yes.
as we know. But no, great insight on that. And that's what I love about, future forecasting, is that we are constantly developing our way of doing things as we learn in this great experiment. So this was a good learning one for us too.
Yeah, because we want to put out stuff that people get some value, at the very least, entertainment, but also value.
But we want something actionable information for them as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I was just off the rails. Let's get to being off the rails here.
So yes, this sucker went off the rails. So really, at the end of the day, Edward, I think, was the only one who remotely kind of was even in the ballpark of cyber attack.
Right.
Everybody else, Naeem, Daz, and Dick, all seem to be getting information on another event. So. Oh,
that's very mysterious.
It is, yes. First off, so in this I just had some breaking news on this front too. So this was tucked in the middle of Dick's session. So he did this back in, March 7th was when he did this session. He's talking about a submarine that's lost with all hands, talking about it being a precipitating event. Big incident, trapped, cold, dead, crushed, salvage operations. He used the word Trident, which this was the Titan. So we had that this summer, we had that submersible that went down with all hands.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, done deal. Good job, Dick. This is awesome. He, viewed this well in advance. However,
it's over a year out.
Yeah. And then I had to drive my mom back and forth to the car dealership because she was getting some car work done on her car this morning. And I mentioned the submarine thing, and she's an avid news watcher. I really try to avoid the news whenever possible. She said something, hey, there's a submarine. There's a Chinese submarine that's in the news. And so I was like, what? So